A Gambling Odyssey. I am David, Dr. C.
This is Richard, the Tsunami. And the purpose of this podcast is to discuss our personal experience on the subject of gambling, the various casinos we've gambled at, what we're doing now, and to invite future guests to tell us about their experiences.
Now that we got the introductions over, we're going to go over a report. I guess you just recently went to Shreveport, Louisiana for a meetup with, and I'll have you kind of fill us in on that. I guess it was with Heavy and our friend Vince.
Yeah, I heard about it through our mutual friend Vince, who I met initially online on Facebook, and we, both of us, you and me, and we met him on a trip in Las Vegas earlier this year, back in January. So he messaged me last week that that there was going to be a craps meetup at Bally's Casino in Shreveport, Louisiana last weekend from the 19th to 21st of April. So it was organized by two guys, Doc and the Big Kahuna. Doc, his first name is Mark, and the Big Kahuna, his first name is Larry. So, and their motto is rolling on the red. So not sure what that means exactly. So we'll probably need to get them on the podcast, a future episode, and have them explain to us what rolling on the red is supposed to mean.
Yeah, it brings a couple ideas to mind, but I have no clue.
So there was a special guest who attended the craps meetup. That's Heavy, whose first name is Steve. And you could probably find his group on Facebook as well. So Vince and I, we drove from Spring, where Vince is at in Texas. Took us about 4 hours because of traffic on Friday afternoon, and we met up at the Bally's Casino there in Shreveport, Louisiana. So the way it started was there was a meet and greet organized by the host, but the host of the casino, she provided some finger food and some drinks for all the guests, for the players invited to the meetup. And there was about just over 30, I think there was 40 that signed up, but it was about 35, 36 that actually showed up over the weekend. So what was great about the meet and greet was the first thing we did was register. We signed up, got our info in there, and we were provided a wristband so that when we were playing at the reserve tables, the casino dealers and the staff would know that we were the invited players for the reserve tables. That way, it really helped, because even throughout the weekend, you had just people just trying to walk up to the table and start playing. And
I think that's smart if any casino is doing a host-up meeting for a group like this, because just having the wristbands on, it takes away the confrontation of, random person showing up. And when they see everyone wearing a wristband, it obviously signifies it's a party or group or something. And they're not going to feel like, well, why am I not here? Well, obviously you don't have a wristband, so that's part one. But two, it helps with the hosting, because you have people switching out. You could be mid-shift and you have a new shift come in, and what's going on?
Oh, and that's exactly what happened. Even with the placards that are posted right next to the table limits and everything, and the betting limits, the minimum bets, they still had a sign that said reserved. But most people don't pay attention to that. And even some casinos have had reserved signs on the rail of the casinos or on the craps tables, and they still don't pay attention. I made the same mistake walking up because I didn't see it, because I'm either just looking at something and I just didn't notice it. And then it is not until, it's a reserve table. Okay, then just turn around and leave. But because they didn't have as many reserved signs, because obviously the players were on the rails of the tables, they may not have seen it. But the floor soups and the dealers were able to tell the other guests at the casino that this was just for a reserved table for invited guests. So, and it went smoothly. There was no arguments, and it was great. Everyone got to continue their play. The best thing about it was the hosts, Mark and Larry, they went over some ground rules. What we mean by ground rules, it was just doing a quick review of craps etiquette. You know, the basics of, hey, if the point is on, or there's a point established, the marker says on, don't try to buy in the middle of someone's roll. Because everyone know, if you're an experienced player with craps, how many times you're about to throw the dice and someone throws their money in the field, and it messes up your roll or concentration. The dealers have to stop the game. It's just a big disruption.
Oh, you mean like a timeout right before the kicker kicks a field goal?
Yeah, ice the kicker.
The cool, the
very similar analogy. And yeah, that always happens.
And people don't realize that. I mean, it's you see that all the time from silly things like where they put their chips on the table, throwing money in, you know, goofy stuff that slows the game down, or even doing like ridiculous betting. Like your bets should be already figured out if you're doing a group like this, and just lay them out. And I love that when you went to this one, you know, they had that pregame that we do all the time, but we know each other, so.
Right, exactly. And that really was good review for folks. And it was in the group of everybody, so nobody was singled out, you know, and it was a good reminder for everybody. And the other thing was we could ask questions. Like one of the questions I asked was, hey, since we got the tables for ourselves, the 2 reserved tables, are we going to be able to get chairs? Is that going to be an issue? And we don't want that to be an issue. And they were like,
have to go to the Orleans just to get a chair.
Right, exactly. And the hosts, Mark and Larry, were like, oh yeah, don't worry, Bally's Casino here. Even if you're not at a reserve table, they let you have a chair anytime on the craps tables. It's
honestly, I don't understand why all the casinos haven't moved to chairs. Orleans has figured it out years ago, and I always give kudos for that. But
yeah, the Boyd properties, they figured that out like decades ago.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first time I nearly tripped on one, and I'm like, what the hell is this stool doing right next to the table? And they're like, oh, so you can sit down. I'm like, what? We can sit down here? That's new. All right, that's cool. But you know, when I was in my 20s, I didn't.
How many people you can smash onto the table? I mean, it's ridiculous how many people they try to put on a table sometimes.
Right. So that was really good for people to ask questions. And the other thing was Mark and Larry, they handed out a business card with their phone numbers. So that way, if something came up during your meetup for whatever reason, like an emergency or whatever, you had their contact numbers, you could call them, and if there was an issue with the casino, they could get with the host and get it all resolved, you know, at the lowest level possible. So
that comes with experience. I mean, you know, these guys this isn't their first rodeo, and I'm sure they've had millions of stories about what could happen. And I love that they're already, you know, what we call in the business, you know, any business is kind of solving the problem before it happens, and that's excellent. I like a good host like that. So it sounds like they're a good host in general.
Yeah, this was really good to start, in the sense that they had an itinerary. They also reviewed the itinerary, reviewed the times, what was going on, so everyone understood what was happening, and to meet our expectations and minimize any surprises, in that sense. So that was really good. And then what they did for the 2 tables, they had a regular craps table, the 12-footer, and then the crapless table, which was the 14-footer. They had sign-up sheets for the spots. Okay, and what they did, because a traditional game, you can put 8 people on each side. Well, everyone knows that's just too crowded, especially if you have some large individuals or really tall, big people. It's just not comfortable to play when there's 8 people on a side. So what they did was they signed up 5 people per side, and they just went around, you know, who wants to sign up and play first. That's the way they did. And on the flip side, when we got to Friday or Saturday, the people that didn't show up on Friday or didn't get a chance to start on the table initially, they had the priority to get the first spots for day 2, which was Saturday.
I kind of love that.
Yeah, and it was really
good. You're seeing that
in
poker now. You're seeing that in poker where, like, you'll see people, they won't jam a private table. They'll have, like, you know, 4 on a side, and that way you're not packed in, or even 3 on a side. You know, it would be you see that a lot of casinos are doing that for private games, and that they did that for the craps is just like really shows that they thought ahead and made it a good experience.
And even later on, when we had a couple other people that wanted to get on the table, it wasn't an issue because we could just, adjust or whatever, pull a chair back. Yeah, and also rotate, and it worked out. There was no issue. Yes. One of the questions that came up was the shooting position on the table. And someone asked, like, hey, is the dealers or the box person, floor soup, were they going to have an issue of us moving around to rotate in our preferred shooting spot? And they're like, oh, no, not a problem whatsoever. They fully understand, and they don't have an issue with that at all. That really relieved a lot of. I don't know
if the listeners know that. Even when we go to a public casino, you can rotate with another shooter. I've had guys that'll see me and they'll see me shoot, or they know I shoot from a certain position because they know me, a local, and they'll say, hey, do you want to take the spot? And I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. Or I'll even ask the guy, hey, can I shoot from there and then go back to my spot when we're done? And the stick people, especially since you're tipping, they'll be pretty chill, but they'll let you rotate it in. And that's something people should look at. Now, don't expect it. It's not an expected thing, but don't be afraid to ask.
Right, exactly. And but the one thing in this meet and greet and the question answer session, it really put some people at ease, because some people, this was like their first meetup. So they weren't sure, hey, what was going to happen. They didn't want to be, I don't want to be stuck on that spot I signed up for. Why are you putting me on stick right when I want to shoot from stick left? So that
builds
all
anxiety for them too.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Nice. They got rid of all the anxiety. They knew what was going on, and it didn't feel, because if you don't know the people, you don't know the rules. So that's really nice that they spell it out.
Right. And so we had the people at the meetup. They ranged all the way from, one guy came all the way from Springfield, Missouri, and it was his first time playing craps since the pandemic. And we're like, wow. Yeah. So you had folks out of Texas, mostly East Texas area, like Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, and then myself, and then Houston or whatever. And then I think there were some folks, one person from Arkansas, I think, somewhere around there. So
any of them good shooters that you saw?
Well, we'll get to that. And so the main, in summary of this, is they had an itinerary, they had a schedule. So it wasn't just show up and figure things out on the fly. Yeah, exactly. So it was very well organized.
You've seen that before.
So going back to, shooters. Well, how do you quantify what's a good shooter? Because that's all relative. So people that,
I mean, how we spotted a controlled, I'm just gonna use a term that people throw around, a controlled shooter or a dice controller.
Well, everybody for the most part was a controlled shooter. There was no grab the dice, roll them in your hand, and chuck them down the table.
Oh, yeah, Hail Marys.
It's not like the TV and the movies. So it wasn't like that. So everyone had their spots and their particular grip and toss and dice sets, positioning of the face of the dice on their preference. So I would say everyone was okay in the sense that everyone is going to have a PSO. That's a point. You establish a point and 7 out on the second roll. I had one on my second roll, but on my first one, I rolled about 25 rolls. So that got us off to a good start. On the table I was on, I was playing the regular craps. We did pretty well.
Where'd you shoot from?
I shot from what basically was stick right 4 position at the end of the table. Yeah. So that allowed the guys that really wanted stick right 1 and 2, and I'm like, hey, that's okay. I'll shoot from this end.
Yeah, but you actually are known for shooting table end.
I've gotten used to that as well, because over the years it was always such a battle to get to stick right 1 that. But when the person was a good shooter, it's like, well, I don't want to kick them out of the spot if they're good, and the whole point is to make money. It doesn't matter if I don't have to roll and we win money. Hey, I'm happy. That doesn't matter. So I learned how to just shoot from either side on the ends. So
That's
Give
a
me
good.
more
It's a
options.
good thing if somebody's going to try to be a dice influencer or a dice controller. They really need to learn to shoot from different positions. And I find that yeah, I shoot better from stick right, but I shoot. I can shoot stick left also, table end, whatever. But it, for most people, I find when you go to a normal casino and it's not like this hosted event, you end up fighting with the people who want to be close to the stick because they're constantly doing prop bets. So they're hopping the horns, they're hopping this and that, which is great on a normal table. So I think you have that kind of leg up being a good shooter from table center, that you just leave that open for those guys, and it eliminates a lot of chaos. It also, you don't have the problem with so many people piling up on the other end of the table putting their chips out. So,
Right. Yeah. That, and there's less hostility. There's more positive energy. Everyone's happy as you're playing the game. There's no arguing.
How is that going? Did they talk about that too, laying the chips out, all the basics?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that was discussed was, hey, depending on the shooter's preference in landing zone at the end of the table, move your place bets or your come bets away from that. And the dealers and the floor soup, the box person, were okay with having our pass line bet somewhere else instead of in front of us on the pass line. Now, it did create some confusion, but the dealers were asking, hey, who's that? Oh, and they would just answer up, oh, that's ours. And they were really good dealers, which was good. And that's the other
that's hard to
thing
find.
that we want to thank Bally's Casino, was they didn't just get us brand new rookie dealers. These were people that wanted to work the reserve table, because everyone knows that casino dealers make majority of their money from tips.
And
they
tips
know
the most.
Yeah. And when you have a reserve table, they know that the players are coming are players that know how dealers make their income. And so they know we're more inclined to tip. And so they already come with a positive attitude, right
That's
off
why
the
I
bat.
like this whole idea of the hosting, because it's like having a dinner party. When you have a dinner party, the waiters who are usually picked are the best of the restaurant, because
Right.
they're representing a large group of people who are going to be return business. And I find it interesting because I've been to a few meetups in Las Vegas where they put their rookie dealers on us, and that was not cool. And in general, so it was really nice to see that the host and the casino stepped up and provided that extra, touch to make sure.
It was really good, because even that Friday night, I think it was Friday night, maybe it was Saturday, I can't remember, but it was a little slow period at the tables, even though there were people playing. I had a chance to talk to one of the dealers, I think just before one of their shifts ended. And I'm like, hey, did you guys do okay? And she's like, oh, yeah, we did really well compared to normal weekends. This was awesome. So
What was the drop? Did she tell you what they got?
no, we didn't go into those details, but they were happy, and the dealers all had positive attitudes. I mean, it was high energy. It was fun.
For someone who's just listening, what we're talking about is we do prop bets for the dealer. So if we're betting on the line, we'll put them down $1, and it kind of gets them into the game. Some players will lay out different numbers, or even put the hard ways is the most common. You'll see tipping even for rookie players who come to the craps table. If you are, go to play a lot of craps, it's really smart as a player to encourage everyone to tip if you're at the table. And I make a verbal statement about it. I'm like, hey, winners are always tipping. And then when I also put the money down on the number, say the point is 8, I'm calling not for myself. I'm always saying, hey, let's get the 8 for the dealers. And the reason I do that for is two: one, the psychology at the table. I have a personal feeling that if the dealers are involved, that they have a positive attitude, they're going to have better results. But two, I'm also encouraging the new players to learn how to tip, because if they're tipping the dealers are always happy. And if the dealers are happy, then the environment is good and the whole experience is, win or lose, you had a better time.
And not only that, then because the dealers are having a positive work experience, the group will be welcomed back for future meetups, because the last thing you want is feedback to management saying, yeah, we don't want that crowd ever come back. Because not only I would have rather
rude,
collected
obnoxious,
soda cans.
Yeah, that's all they hear. with all the
Yeah.
terrible things about you. Yeah, and
Right.
that's true. And that's one thing a lot of players that are going to learn as they, or people who just listen to the podcast, that we have a mantra that we kind of play out, and that's the feng shui. You know, we've kind of talked about it in the past, and it's kind of what we look at. And what we always notice is that when we bring the party to the table and we make it fun, everybody has a good time. But in addition, we're always treated better, to the point when I go into a casino with you, any place we go now, they know our names. And it's not because we gave them our player's card. It's they remember us, or we know the dealer, you know. And so that representation is only they remember us because we tip. You know, they know, hey, these guys are tippers. They are always encouraging people to tip, and they're not jerks at the table. They're polite, they're courteous, and they know the game. You know, they don't slow things up and cause problems. So that's something that everyone should really think about before you go to the casino. Yeah, you're there for a good time, but if you're also there at a craps table because it's a community game, it's like being at a poker table. Everyone's been to the poker table, and the guy's got his headset on, the dark glasses and the hoodie, and he's just sitting there grinding it out, and he brings nothing to the table other than the opportunity to lose your money. And we're taking the reason most people go to craps is because it's a community game where everyone has the same, you know, odds of winning and losing at that moment. And it's like cheering for your own football team, but we don't have a team. The team is everybody at the table. So that's
Right.
kind of the reason a lot of people are drawn to craps, because you're part of that team, and the shooter is no different than the kicker. You know, it's like, hey, our team's going to kick a field goal. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter that, you know, you're the kicker.
And one of the reasons why people like to go to meetups, they don't like to go to a casino and be at the table by themselves for a whole bunch of different reasons. One, if they're having a cold day, well, then that's not very good. But if you go with a group, and let's say half of the guys or gals do well, then you're more likely to come out ahead and have a more positive experience than you just go by yourself and, well, that didn't work out, 3.7 outs, because I've done that. Dave's done that, and it's terrible. And we just like,
well, I mean, then that's why I do
that's
my set a point, see a roll before I start betting the two, basically on the third roll before I'm even putting money on the table. And I've had to do that for multiple reasons. One, you know, like many people who play craps or gamble a lot, you know, have an addiction to gambling. So I like to gamble. It's my game. And craps is when I take the risk on. And over the years, I've said, hey, I've seen the statistics. I look at the numbers. I remember every game I play. And I look back and I go, man, if I had done this the week and I changed it, and I said, I'm not going to put out a bet until the second roll, all of a sudden I started walking out of the casino with money in my pocket. And not money that I came in with, but money I won, because I wasn't giving it up on every roll.
So for Saturday on the 20th, they had two reserve tables, a crapless and a regular craps. And that pretty much started at 12 and 1 o'clock, respectively. And we had the tables till whatever, 4 in the morning. Not everybody stuck around. I think I stopped at about 1 something. Some of the other guys were at like 2 or 3, and then there were some people that stayed all the way till 4:30 until the dealers had to go home.
So 4:30 in the morning?
Yeah, 4:30. Yeah, Sunday morning.
That's
and so, yeah, they still had tables open on play on Sunday. Some of us went to the Horseshoe, which was like a 5-minute drive. It's actually across the river over in Bossier City. The Horseshoe, that's a Caesars property. So I went over there Saturday morning prior to the breakfast get together.
So just 2 casinos you went to? I didn't hear that before.
Yes, yeah, I did that.
Well, which one do you think was the better of the two?
Well, because we were staying at Bally's, the rooms were okay. I mean, Horseshoe, the only reason why I went there is because it was a Caesars property. And talking to my Caesars host, because I hadn't played there in so many years, even prior, basically since before the pandemic, I wasn't able to get a comped room like I normally do during slow times of the year. And so the host was like, hey, you need to get some play in, and then I can help you out, because otherwise all they could do was get me the player's card rate, for
Well,
the
they're
room.
probably regional. I've noticed because like I get offers for Reno and Tahoe and Vegas, and then what's the little
No, I
the
was
other
getting those regularly because I was stopping by, but it's been
yeah.
so many years that you fall off the matrix in their system. So that's what happened. So we went over there. Vince and we went over there as well. Went over there on Saturday or Sunday as well, but didn't do so hot. So I ended up spending some time just playing poker. Saturday wasn't bad. I think as far as the poker players, but I don't want to digress from that. But but overall, I would say the meeting was very well organized. It was top notch because the host of Mark and Doc, they did really well.
And they had a guest that was heavy, right? That was
right. The special guest was heavy. His name's Steve. He actually runs casino classes where he teaches all about the game, dice setting, positioning, betting, different strategies, and whatnot. So it was good to finally meet him. I'd only heard about him on YouTube videos, podcasts, and Facebook
I've seen him on YouTube
posts
and interviews, but and of course the odd person talking about him here and there, but until you meet him.
And once again, the wristbands were huge because it really helped the casino staff to know who we were and for ourselves in the meetup group. So let's say you were just you just show up in the
what kind of bands were they? Like the Armstrong bands, or just the Get Into the Fair bands?
Yeah, it was the Armstrong bands. Yeah.
Oh, the rubber ones, good.
Right.
Those are nice. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, for the level of players for the meetup group, it was all levels. You had the old timer vets, recent new players, like the one guy who's been playing for a while but hadn't played since the pandemic. So, and then someone who was fairly new, in the sense that he just started. He's still learning the different payouts and the different strategies and whatnot. But he does like throwing the dice, setting the dice, and whatnot. And I would say overall, everyone had a great time, and they're all looking forward to the next one.
Well, I mean, and knowing you're pretty hard to please when it comes to craps tables. Most of the players I know, and one thing I think is interesting is because of the organization. What would you say that changed? Was that did they make it easier for you to go ahead and get into your flow, get your roll going, and not have to worry about it because you weren't fighting with it based on what they had gone over, versus like if you went in on a random table.
Yeah, everyone was like, okay, where's your landing zone? Let me know before we place our bets. Like before
even though they're
the
randos, in my mind, all these players are randos because I don't know them. If I haven't seen you roll, you're a rando. I'm sorry. And but at the same time, if everyone knows the game, and it's nice to go in and be like, okay, we're going to play baseball. And it's not like, hey, have you ever played baseball? They don't even know where to stand on the base. They don't know where the ball's supposed to be thrown to. They don't know how to catch or throw the ball. They don't even know how to swing a bat. And we're all trying to just get together and have a game. That's your traditional craps table. They have no clue. I mean, people are just like, where do I put my money? And it usually is up in the field or the big 8 or some other stupid bet. And then,
or when the dice are in the air, that's when they stick their hands into the table.
Oh, I love it. I love it when they put their hand. That's when I see people putting their hand, they're all handsy. I start moving to the don't. I'm like, oh, okay, you want to be handsy? Fine, I'll make money the other way. It's like,
right, exactly.
Geez, it's like anybody who plays craps, we all know throwing money on the table, like we talked about earlier, is just a quick way to tilt anybody who's played craps a long time. But as a don't player, which I go both sides, I don't play once exclusively. When I have a big bet on the don't and somebody who walks up and throws $20 or $5 on the table, the less money, the better. Because if they just throw that one bill on the table, it's almost a guarantee I'm going to win. It feels like every time. I can't remember a time losing. That's how great it is. So if you want the table to blow up, just go throw a $5 bill on the table. You're guaranteed. It's like that and a drink lady. If you could get the drink lady, a stick change, and a $5 bill, you might as well just, the 7's coming.
Right.
Every time.
Exactly.
It's like, boom.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's something people don't get because they don't play the game enough. And it may be just a coincidence, and everyone says you have what's called observation bias. But for those of us who play a lot of it, that observational bias has become more of what we call superstition. And you don't really want to get up to a table and be that guy or that lady, because you throw the money on the table, and one explanation I always got, and I love it, is when the button says on, it's actually upside down. It's no. And I'll give credit to Ed from Roll to Win, because he said that, and I loved it because he was right. He's like, yeah, it's the on button means no money on the table. Don't add money. And then the off button means that, yeah, you can go ahead. When the button is turned to off, go ahead and put your money out there. That's what a lot of us will come up. But I want to bring up one point that I see and add this to the episode, is that when you see someone come up to the table and you're shooting and you're the only person at the table, or there's two people at the table, and the player comes up and he would be traditionally the next person to roll, but he did not put money in yet because he's waiting for the opportunity to go ahead and buy in. When they buy in, they technically do not have the opportunity to roll. So they're not only being polite, but they're skipping their turn under the casino rules. Most casinos will not allow you to have the dice unless you place a bet or the only player at the table and you started off the session. So if you see someone do that, always say, oh, no, let them roll, because you're encouraging that the right way of doing things. Like the person being polite, like the man opening the door for the woman, or someone sees you drop your wallet and picks it up and says, hey, you dropped this, and gives it to you. You're encouraging that positive play versus being the guy at the table who's like, oh yeah, I get the dice again, and you just grab the dice and start rolling. Now, of course, me or you would sit there and have to watch them roll to see if they're any good, because you don't even know them from Adam. They're a rando. You're not going to be betting on the table until you witness what are they doing. Are they drinking and hucking the dice, or are they trying to roll the dice, or are they just a lucky person? So if you do see that, that's something smart to think about.
Yeah, in future episodes we'll go into more detail of our pet peeves and stuff like that.
Oh, I know.
Casino etiquette.
We mix it all in. It's kind of a free flow. And that's
the reason why we started off with this topic for this episode is because we've wanted to do a podcast or YouTube channel for quite a while, and we've been talking about it for a while, and we're trying to figure out where to start. But this recent meetup I went to gave us a good subject that we could just start right off the bat. But the next follow-on episodes we'll start with basically the beginning of the Odyssey. For myself and as well as Dave's, and then go into those details, and so you guys can
our Odyssey, I would say, for people listening, we've only known each other since '98.
Exactly. So a long time.
But
so we look forward to sharing more experiences with you guys and all the casinos and every different places we've been to, and some of the crazy stuff you only read about or hear about. So hopefully,
we could do it. Just going over casinos you've been to, that's at least 20 episodes.
That's quite a few.
And that's just per state. We could just say states and countries that you've been to.
Yeah, exactly. So yep, there's a lot of stuff. Just as a quick preview, I'm heading back to Vegas this week and meeting up with actually one of the guys that is from San Antonio. His name's Alfredo. He was at the meetup. He's going to happen to be in Vegas into this week here, and we're supposed to meet up and between us two, and we'll see how things go. And hopefully we can get him on the channel and tell us about himself and whatnot.
Well, that's the nice thing about this podcast is we're not actually going out of our way to do anything. We're just adding in what we do normally and deciding to go ahead and document it and create a podcast so people can join us along the way as we go, because most people don't know that Richard has met up with people in Las Vegas for many years, and he's not a casino host. He doesn't do this for a living. He just is one of those guys that everybody knows. And over the time period, I've been down to Vegas, gosh, how many times with you? I can't even count them all.
Oh, dozens and dozens.
I mean, all the way back to even the Stardust. I mean, it's just
that's going to be a good episode when we talk about Stardust. So.
Yeah, Stardust. I love that place. Too bad it's down. They built the new resort world there, and I got finally to stay in it, and it was nice to actually go back to the same place where it all started for me. But we'll talk about, like you said, on another episode. Right. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And
if you like the episode, click the like and leave a comment.
Please click the like and leave a comment, and definitely leave comments, because comments will help us kind of think of other things to address, talk about,
Yeah, if you have
and
any questions or
discuss.
whatnot, yeah,
Treat it like a public forum, because this is, I don't like the idea of a podcast where it's like, oh, we don't want to hear your opinion. No, we do want it. We want you to join the conversation, really.
Exactly.
In fact, if you are one of the ones that have a good conversation and you want us to either reach out to you, we may even just ask to reach out to you because you have a good story you want to share about your experience you had at a casino or a meetup with some of the people we spoke about, or another group that you've had a group meeting with, because we're always looking for other people who are doing the same thing, and hopefully we can add that into the show.
All right.
Anything else you want to add up? All right, we'll close it out.
It.
And we'll hopefully have this one published up here shortly, and we'll get the second episode rolling right after that. We plan to try to do 2 to 3 episodes a week. It's not, a big push for that, because we talk daily anyway, so we're just going to start recording some of those talks and make it into a show.
Exactly. All right.
All right.
Have
Thanks.
a good one.
Talk to you later, bud.